Eric Keller here, Enthusiast Auto Group. We are enjoying some beautiful spring weather in Cincinnati at EAG HQ. This is also workshop number 1. And before doing the Sport Evo video, I wanted to just give a little preface to what to expect over the next couple of weeks with these videos and remind everybody to stay safe out there. It's a very interesting time in our history. We've never been through something like this before as a country or a human species. This is really a scary point of our history. But it's something that does need to be faced with a positive attitude, and we hope that these videos brighten your day a little bit, offer a little bit of encouragement and positivity. You're certainly going to laugh because we are completely unscripted in this. I'm filming this in the rain. The EAG pit crew have never been in front of a camera. Don't pay mind to that. It's certainly going to be enjoyable, and I appreciate them willing to jump in and do it with us. So these cars behind us are this collection of BMW All-Stars, the 5 cars with the mystery car still off camera in the workshop. I'm really excited to share these with you. They present some really cool opportunities from a technical standpoint. Very unique, very rare, very exciting, and very awesome to drive, which is why we do this. And I think that going inside the workshop is definitely going to provide a lot of cool perspectives, but also show a lot of the EAG Rejuve program that a lot of people ask about all the time. What goes into your cars? And this is just going to be a sample. We're just going to scratch the surface. We're going to show you the stuff that's easily visually entertaining, but there's so much more in the extra mile services and preparing these cars to be turnkey to our standard for a second time in life. And we would be happy to share that type of information with you in those Dropbox files and share the PPI. Have these telephone conversations. We certainly love to get to know our clients, so do pick up the phone and give us a call. We're not planning on closing anytime soon. We're open for business. We're practicing all the safe countermeasures to stay healthy and keep the EAG family and pit crew operating at the best of their ability, and keep the lights on and get these guys paid, because they really work hard to earn this living. And we realized a long time ago that we're only as good as those that we surround ourselves with, and I'm very, very proud of the EAG pit crew, because these guys and gal really make this company. And so I'm pulling out all the stops. We're going to push really hard to continue to do everything that we do best. And I certainly appreciate any and all support along the way to help get through this difficult time. We certainly are happy and willing to help anybody else out that we can. If you have questions, technical or related to the cars that we're selling or not, we just had a call from a nice gal in Maine that we met a long time ago about what suspension to put on her E34 to remove the self-leveling. No problem, we're happy to help. That's what this is all about. So Tanya, we'll get an email over to you here soon. Thanks for your call and friendship. Do stay tuned to the channel, subscribe for more. There's going to be a lot more cool stuff in the pipeline in addition to these 5 BMW All-Stars. I'm quite excited to share this with all of our fellow enthusiasts. And so stay tuned, let's have some fun. Let's go for a ride in a Sport Evo, and we'll have a lot of laughs along the way. Stay safe. Perfect time for a train, isn't it? See ya. Eric Keller here with Enthusiast Auto Group. We are at EAG's workshop number 1, our HQ, and today we have a really special new arrival. This has just come out of a container shipped in from Germany and is another E30 M3 Sport Evolution. This Sport Evo has a really cool story, and one that I'm quite excited to share, as it's unlike any story I've heard, frankly, on E30 M3s before, and especially it's quite fantastic for it being a Sport Evo. The most recent owner here for the past decade or so, quite the enthusiast and recent retiree, he loved this car dearly and went to very great lengths to basically have a brand new condition Sport Evo. As you're going to see in this video, as we go through the details and look quite closely at all of the small little finishes and fasteners, this car is pretty indistinguishable from brand new. And it has a really great reason why. this owner, now with a fair amount of time on his hands, decided to go through the BMW parts catalog and found the Sport Evo section, and he basically ordered the whole catalog. I mean, just about everything. I probably should pan here to the trunk, because in this binder, which we don't see enough service binders with actual hard copy receipts on most of the European cars, as they do for the majority of their services, just do the service stamps in the book, which we have those too. We have our importation documentation, the US DOT, the build sheet here, which notes an electric sunroof, and headlight wash wipe, onboard computer. It has, and actually I should note, that is quite an important feature there. That is the CD player. This is the only E30 M3 Sport Evo that we've ever seen, and frankly that we know of, that does and had a CD player on the build sheet. Just a fun fact, if nothing else. The parts receipts, though, are where I'm looking for, and there's all the service stamps. But the parts receipts are just expansive. And that is why this car is one of the nicest Sport Evos I think that you will find left in existence. There's a handwritten section somewhere right about there. This is obviously where he was building his plan of attack, and well, he executed it quite well. We have partnered with another enthusiast in Sweden who has quite a lot of experience with these cars, and he's went through the car in his workshop. He is a BMW shop by trade and nature, and of course by hobby. This car was completely gone through by him before arriving to EAG, and now today we will be completing our check-in inspection, which we've done our cosmetics portion of that now. And then we're going to go through and put it in the workshop and do a full top-down assessment and give it our own what for. But, you know, initial glance and just looking at all of the small details, it is quite tidy. The car has just arrived. I jumped in it and drove it home straight away. Usually I don't jump in them and drive them until we've done our mechanical portion of the inspections, for a lot of reasons, safety being one of them. But I felt pretty comfortable to do that with this one. Optional rear headrests as well. Look at just the detail. It's new. It is brand new. We've not detailed the car. We've done nothing. Well, we paid for it, and we paid a lot for it, but you get what you pay for, as we all have learned a long time ago. The steering wheel's new. I mean, the shift knob's about the only thing that isn't like super brand new, and I'm sure that there's one in stock to update that, to just kind of put the last finishing touches on things. The full exterior was disassembled and repainted to a very high standard. And going through the paint, I have to say that it's new. We're getting a little bit of a sprinkle, so we're not going to get exactly the best cosmetics here, and of course the train certainly will help on the audio side, but we're going to power through. Let's take a closer look. The dash is as new, and look at this cluster. 149,000 kilometers. That is, what's that, 90, low 90s in miles. And it surely does not look its age at all, but it's right. I mean, there's no tape lines. And that's obviously a pretty amateur example to use. That's pretty easy to hide and remove. But the quality of the finish, the orange peel, everything is just right. Down to the floor mats. I mean, look at the seat frame. Look at the eyelet. I mean, a lot of times those will have a little bit of rust and oxidation on them. Not this one. And yeah, that's pretty much new. For guys that look at these all day, they're, I'm sure, appreciating what they're seeing right now, because this is gotta be one of the nicest E30 M3s. Take the Sport Evo out of it. It's really great to have them arrive in this kind of condition. It certainly makes the rejuve process, well, a formality to a small degree. We're going to find a couple things we always do, but this will be a lot less time going through the program to get to that turnkey readiness status. You'll hear our lovely bird deterrent system probably screaming in the background. That keeps all of the feathered friends away and keeps our detailing and bird dropping casualty to a minimum. So we have thought of a lot of those type of things to make sure that we are preserving these. We don't really keep much stuff outside these days. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we're going to bring you inside EAG a little bit closer. This is Super Secret Warehouse number 1 and Super Secret Warehouse number 2. And it's great to be able to have all these facilities to keep the cars safe and sound inside and share them with other fellow enthusiasts when the opportunity presents. And when we are finally able to have you come out for your EAG experience, we'll be happy to give you the tour and show you all of these cars and facilities in person, which certainly can't come soon enough. But in the meantime, we hope this tides you over. Let's head over to the workshop and review the Sport Evo with Kent. So now we're in EAG's workshop number 1. We're actually in the original portion of the old Gene speedometer. This was the very first part of the garage that was built back in the 40s or 50s. But we're here with Kent, who has been with EAG for 13 years and 1 day as of yesterday, or today, I should say, but 13-year anniversary. And,
yesterday.
Kent has worked on a couple hundred E30 M3s and has been working on BMWs and German cars for going on
42 years since I was 16. Got my start working on Volkswagens because I wanted to drive.
There you go. And so Kent has brought a lot to the table over the years and certainly been a great resource and educator for our internal staff. And we've definitely learned a lot by experience and then internally train our guys, because there's no replacement for experience when you see all the same cars, same models of car consistently. That gives us a perspective that others just don't simply have access to. And so that's quite relevant to this car, because this Sport Evo is, well, I'll let Kent kind of give you his impressions. We've completed our rejuvenation inspection. Our roadmap has started to form, and Kent, you've looked at, as I said, several hundred of these. What are your impressions?
So first impression, it's spectacular. It's like I opened the hood of a car that just rolled off the factory floor. The hardware is immaculate. It's all politically correct. The plastic is white. It's the nicest one I have seen to original to date.
Yeah. Doesn't get much better than that. We did find a couple things, though, that we can offer some opportunity for improvement. And so I'm going to grab the camera. We're going to go through and highlight a couple of those things for the fellow enthusiasts that are watching, as well as we'll go up and take a really good look at the undercarriage so that you can really get a 360-degree view of this car and for what it is. All right, Kent, let's go ahead and point out a couple things that we've found that we can offer some opportunity for improvement.
Okay, well, luckily on this one we haven't found too much. The first thing we caught, small grommet right here on the accelerator cable. It's deteriorated with age or cut. Kind of common. These kind of move around a lot, especially when you're happy on the throttle. So we'll have to replace that one. Mm-hmm. Walk around to this side. And like all E30s, the valve cover gaskets on these have a tendency to not seal very well. Kind of helps if you torque them in the right direction and not over torque them. A little bit of oil there, so this will be getting the valve cover replaced. And as always, when a car at Enthusiast gets its valve cover removed, the valves will be put back into spec, or at least checked. And the cam plate on the rear of the engine, which covers the rear of the camshafts, has a gasket in there that's notorious for leaking. We will be replacing that as well.
So if we get into something, we just basically one and done, as we always have.
Absolutely. If we're going to have it off, we might as well do it all.
Right. Anything else in the engine? I mean, looking at all the details on the other side of things, I mean...
It's spectacular, right down to all the OEM style clamps on the coolant lines and the white plastic clips. It's, like I say, it's as new as I have seen one. Minus the Cosmoline, it's fantastic.
I think let's take a lift up and let's get under the car.
Okay.
Now under the Sport Evo, we're going to do just a general walkthrough, highlight the undercarriage, as well as point out a couple things that we found some room for improvement. But as you can see on first look here, pretty much everything is new. Kent, why don't you lead us through, give us a tour.
Well, so far everything's spectacular, and like the engine compartment, highly detailed and much attention to detail on this car. Lots of new stickers on parts, so once again it looks like it rolled off the showroom floor. Looks like we have a little bit of a leak here. It's power steering. Red.
And we identified that.
So we have a power steering hose that's leaking at the coupler at the power steering pump, which is kind of typical, easy fix.
How many hundreds of those have you done?
Oh, lots. Pretty much everyone that's rolled through this building has had about leaking power steering.
It's kind of like the high pressure line on E46 M3s.
And we do have a drop on the back of the valve cover that we were talking about hanging down there, so we will be putting a valve cover and cam plate on this car with a valve adjust.
You can see just a little bit of residual oil there.
It's kind of hard to see, but...
Yep. It's right there at the top. You can. It's, again, difficult to see with the camera, but it's there. No big deal.
But every connector, OEM, it's fantastic.
In the rear here, we've pretty much, again, whole new gas tank, new subframe. All the calipers are still zinc coated, which, you don't see new calipers all that often. The big thing with this guy, he bought all these parts when they were still available, new, genuine from BMW, and there's so much of that stuff we can't get anymore.
Stickers on the exhaust.
Yeah, you don't see that too often.
No.
Diff's tight, transmission is dry as a bone. That's not super common as the cases on the short, the close ratios, especially the dog legs tend to get a little bit seepy. But all in, I mean, we've got some outdated tires. I think these were, 2002 date codes, weren't they?
That is 24 of 02.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're...
And if you've not learned to read tires yet, see how that says 2402 when we spin it around? That means it's the 24th week of 2002. And a lot of times they'll be on the inside on one side, so if you don't see them on the outside on one side of the car, just go to the other side of the car. And there you go again. There's a 24 of 02. These PS1s, though, haven't been in production for, well over a decade, so it's definitely on the one of the first things that we'll do before we get out and really drive it too spiritedly. But they're still in actually surprisingly good non-dry rotted shape, which is another context clue of how the car's been stored and preserved up until this point in time, isn't it?
It's amazing.
So with that kind of concludes the undercarriage tour. There's a couple other little things, including the paint, which is done to a super high standard. However, there's always room for small improvements, and we will go ahead and just do any other remaining real small finish work. We did find just a couple little spots of dirt here. I mean, just random, not very many though, and you're going to have that coming out of even a factory paint booth, and it's just that finish process which sets apart the men from the boys. Let's see if I can find it over here. Yeah, there it is. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to get it I'll put my fingerprint on it. Get up there, can you see it? See my fingerprint, but again, there's just a small little piece of dirt that will sand out and then ensure that when we go through and do our paint correction that it's ceramic coated and ready for daily driving duty if that is the next use. You'll notice that the rocker panels are even flat as they're supposed to be. A lot of these rocker panels will be painted gloss accidentally, but they were kind of a flat color as these cars left the factory. Moving on to the interior, Kent, go ahead and give us an overview.
Well, so far the interior looks spectacular. Like all these E30s, the lower panel here creates a large gap. 30 years of this panel hanging, they have a tendency to sag and bow a little bit and cause that gap. That will be tightened up and cleaned up. It's just spectacular. There's really not a whole lot I can say about it.
Let's move on to the trunk.
It's perfect.
BMW engineers, including the sound engineers, thought of just about everything. Who remembers that sound? Toolkit, and go ahead and give us a tour, Kent.
Well, trunk like any other comes with a few different things on the European cars. The cutouts for weight, because they believed that this was weight with speed.
And that will be specific to the homologation cars. The Evo
Yes.
2s and Sport Evos only will have that.
Yes, you won't see this on our American cars.
Correct.
We see a solid trunk and some safety things that are different that we do not see on our American cars.
The blue case there is a warning triangle, and behind that is a medical kit.
And the toolkit, full of a bunch of unused tools.
Now the US cars right there back by the hinge, you would see a VIN sticker as well as on the door panels and all the other panels on a US or North American spec car. The Euro spec cars will not have those. They'll simply have the VIN engraved into the firewall as well as a metal plaque, typically affixed to the passenger front fender arch, which why don't I go ahead and pan and show that as well as the back end of this 1994 German spec E34 M3 Touring that's just finishing up its rejuve, heading out to California after completed. And down here at the bottom you'll see the VIN plaque. They're riveted to the body. And then there's also one here on the firewall. And fun fact, notice that that is a WBA prefix. Probably hard to see, but it is a WBA. And for the diehard M enthusiasts, you'll know that all the M cars were originally slated as a WBS designation, and the factory just, they made a mistake, and a lot of them were caught and corrected. But it was only in the early Sport Evos that you would find a WBA, and this was actually the third Sport Evo with a WBA that we've had. One of them was corrected. And here next door, we've got an E46 M3, as noted there on the skid plate, or the belly pan. And this is a 2006 competition that EAG sourced from the original owner a number of years ago out of Canada. It's just a little over 11,000 miles today and will be offered up to the third owner. We purchased the car back after a couple of years of ownership with a collector out east, and we'll be going through the full program on this one as well. So let's head back outside and finish our lap around the Sport Evo. Super happy with this car. Drives fantastic. If you want a second opportunity to own new condition in a Sport Evo, this is the closest I think one will come, at least in the shortest order. It can be done again to a small degree. A lot of the parts, unfortunately though, are not available any longer. But in this case, you don't need them. It's already got them and it's ready to enjoy. Subscribe for more. We've got a lot of great cars coming in. We've got a lot of stuff still in the pipeline in containers coming in from Europe. And I cannot wait to meet the next enthusiast owner of this car and support them throughout their ownership. This car will drop anybody just in their tracks. Concours, anything you want to do, this car is ready to well, bring home the trophies. Thanks again for tuning in. Stay tuned for more. See ya. sweet. Woo.